Hey guys, did you know that pattern detection is a trait of autism? So there's a thing that people on the spectrum do called masking. Masking is what we learn how to do from a very early age, really the beginning of our life, where we figure out who we want to show up as in the world. The reason that we do this, from my experience, I'm not sure of the technical reason why they say people on the spectrum mask. I think everyone masks to a certain extent, but the reason why I masked when I was younger, it's because when I showed up as myself, it was repeatedly not accepted. I would get constant correction. I would really just never understand what was going on in a room. So I would observe. And maybe that's why they call people on the spectrum slow. And technically, we are slow to respond. Another trait is delayed processing, right? So we have to figure out and observe things that are happening in the room to be able to show up and function. Sometimes that just never happens, in a situation. So how that relates to pattern detection through my experience is we become so keen to our environment. I believe, and don't quote me on this is why I say I don't want to be an autism facts person, because sometimes it is hard for me to retain information and regurgitate it in an informative way, if that makes sense. I did see somewhere during my research that autistic people process about 43% more information than the, neurotypical person. I was going to say average person, but we don't know what's average anymore. We just don't know. Which I find to be quite exciting. But anyway, we process more information, and maybe that's because we're always observing 5 things at one time. We can read a room, guys. We can read a room. Yeah, we can detect patterns. So a lot of the times we don't understand exactly why somebody's doing what they're doing, which, fun fact, that's the autistic word, kind of how I came across researching autism. But anthropology is the study of people and why they do what they do. We're just lost. We never know. The only thing that we can grasp is them actually doing what they're doing. We can see the patterns. We can see how often they do it, what type of, I wouldn't say we can detect the exact emotion, but something's happening. Something's happening and we can pick it up. And through my understanding, this pattern detection is the way that we kind of learn to survive in this world. Autistic people do come off a little younger than they're supposed to be. Well, they're supposed to be is what the world tells us is appropriate for our age. We can come off very naive, which we are in some ways, but not in all ways. People, they love black or white. They don't like gray. They don't like that you can be fun and youthful and happy and joyous and authentic, but also really mean what you're saying. And you want people to know to stop playing with you. And you're not that slow. You actually are just not understanding what is typical, what is typically acceptable. This is why I'm so excited that a lot of people are discovering that they're on the spectrum, because what is normal will be now changed and people will start to look outside the box, accept other behaviors and quirks that we have for being normal. Last fun fact for this video, there are a lot of people who are celebrities on the spectrum. You have actors and actresses who are on the spectrum, and they're probably just really good at what they do because they're able to mimic, because they've been masking. That pattern detection can come in hand in some places in your life. So when you think of autism, yes, I do want people to understand that there are strengths and weaknesses. It doesn't just have to be considered a strength or a weakness. And we need to learn how to expand our minds to understand that, we just are who we are. Hopefully that will get people to not try to take advantage of people like us, because we can see you. Especially if we're really smart like I am and I just process things late. you're not going to be around me anymore once I pick up on your patterns and I understand that you are not here with the best intention. So that's what I wanted to talk about. Hopefully it wasn't too scrambled up, but pattern detection is something that autistic people are really good at. And, you know, instead of thinking that we're slow or we're stupid, whatever it is, and the reason I use those words, guys, is because that's been my experience. I've always had people talk over my head when I'm like, I understand what you're saying, you know, but sometimes it works in my favor. Sometimes I can just show up and, you know, I don't have to do anything. And that's why I say I do not operate from a place of ego. If I don't feel like working, like, I haven't had the diagnosis, but if I don't feel like working, not at a job, but like in a social environment and people around me know that I'm the way that I am, it's perfect for me because I don't have to mask and I don't have to perform. Lastly, this is why I say to ask somebody, why do you think you're on the spectrum, is a loaded question. This is so intricate. It's just an experience that one has to explain. And, you know, I'll just say keep being open to understanding what autism spectrum disorder is. It is a spectrum. There is no one face for it. So that's it.